So what's the next scenario? We decided to go with the one that I'm sure a lot are familiar with. Why are we borrowing at 12 to 16% when we could borrow at less from the multilaterals, i.e. the Inter-American Development Bank, the European Commission, etc.? So we put that in. We literally doubled their share of our debt mix from 21% to 42%. Again, not much movement. We did get to our debt GDP ratio a lot sooner. Well, 1 year sooner. And we reached a balanced budget in 7 years. But not much movement in that big picture. And realize what that also makes clear to us is in determining what our policies should be and how we're going to get there, we need to understand what the big picture is, not just looking at the immediate returns and say, right, we're going on the right path. We need to look at what the overall, how it affects our overall situation, i.e. the 71% that we accumulated in short order. So we look at another scenario. What if we just stop absorbing debts from these non-central government entities? So we sell off, if you sell off everything, I mean, granted, we have a welfare heart and everything, but I believe it was one of our former leaders that says, takes cash to care. So we sell off JUTC, sell off Air Jamaica, sugar companies, unless they become viable. What happens then? Then we start seeing more movement. 10 years to our debt GDP ratio, 6 years to the balanced budget. So then we say, what about tax revenue? Now, this is one that is dear to my heart, and I think dear to the philosophy of CaPRI as well. Anyone who's seen this thing will realize that CaPRI has as its underlying marker taking responsibility. And this one points to that in particular. A lot of us don't want to pay taxes. Who wants to pay taxes, right? But the fact is our decision not to pay taxes affects our country. Because when there's less tax revenue, it puts us in a worse situation. And this is where we as Jamaicans have to take responsibility for our tax rate. We just modeled a very modest increase in taxes, 3% increase in tax revenue, and that had us at a balanced budget in 3 years. So in half the time, if we had done nothing. Also, we reached that GDP ratio in 9 years. Again, 4 years earlier. Then we have the GDP growth. We, again, were modest and said only 3%. That's all we want, 3% growth. And we have both indices and got to financial health in much shorter time. You're talking a balanced budget in 4 years. Now, what is interesting about these scenarios is the best way to actually deal with the debt problem is not to just look at the debt problem and look at the other contributory factors. Instead of saying, all right, let us negotiate debt relief, let us negotiate with international agencies, etc., we need to look at why are we accumulating the debt? What is happening here that is causing that? Now, there are things beyond our control. There are social crises, there are hurricanes, earthquakes, etc., and the list goes on. But there are some things that we can hold a handle on, i.e. collection of tax. And it shows that the collection of tax revenue growing, which also means taking that measure of stepping out and having businesses, etc., and attracting income to this country, and also managing our public sector entities better will get us to our goal of healthy financial status much faster than just negotiating around the debt mix, etc. And so just to recap what our recommendations were, we said tax, growth, liabilities, i.e., I hate to be a killjoy. I support the unions, etc. But we have to look at what are the costs of the measures to us. When we decide to take measures such as FinSAC, etc., it's not just looking at what is happening in that particular sector, but there's a need to look at overarchingly what is the cost-benefit analysis of that, who pays and who benefits. And that, in essence, was our debt report. Thank you. We are happy to have with us a distinguished panel of people for you to bounce questions off of what I have so simply presented. We have, let me just do them by name order. We have Latoya Richards, who was one of the co-authors of the report. Lawman Lynch, who is the youth officer of the Kingston and St. Andrew Action Forum, among other titles. Min Pham resident representative of the UNDP, and Charles Abugray, Global Advocacy and Policy Director for Christian Aid UK. Thank you. So we can use this central mic here to ask questions, and they're at your mercy.
Are you hearing me? Yes, okay. Good evening, everybody. I wanted to put a scenario to you, which I believe is important for us to consider, because if I'm correct, this is something that we need to make sure we correct in the future. It is my belief that part of the problem, and CaPRI's presentation, while very, very good, didn't speak to it specifically, but I believe that we've entered into a situation where we believe that we should have a very big government. And I think that that has caused a significant portion of the problem, because we cannot afford a big government. Meaning, when I say big government, I mean all aspects, including the sections that give us the absorption of debt. So for example, what is happening now is that the debts, the government is spending, I think, roughly 2/3 of every dollar that's spent in Jamaica every day. The point from that is that because we have such a large government, we are having to finance recurrent expenditure in addition to capital expenditure, and that has been building up over the years. So my argument is we should be looking over time. It cannot be done radically. We should be looking to over time reducing the size of government so that it can be more efficient and meet the needs more effectively. And I'd like to hear the comments of the panel on that.